The cafe's soft jazz hummed beneath the quiet chatter of afternoon customers. Sarah trudged through the door, her shoulders heavy with the weight of another exhausting day. Juggling a worn leather bag, a stack of paperwork, and the constant worry of making ends meet, she looked like she was one small setback away from breaking. Jake, behind the espresso machine, noticed her immediately. There was something in her eyes, a mixture of determination and pure exhaustion that he recognized all too well. He'd been there himself not too long ago. Sarah approached the counter, counting out her coins carefully. Her fingers trembled slightly as she realized she was a few dollars short of her usual latte. The internal debate was written across her face. Comfort or practicality? A moment of self-care or another sacrifice? Jake watched her, his hands paused mid-motion. He knew that look. It was the same expression his own mother had worn years ago while raising him alone, always choosing necessity over personal comfort. "One large latte?" Sarah mumbled, her voice barely audible. When she came up short, Jake didn't hesitate. "On the house," he said with a warm smile. "Looks like you could use a little boost." Sarah's eyes welled up, not from sadness, but from an unexpected moment of kindness. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Absolutely," Jake replied. "We all need someone in our corner sometimes." Little did Jake know that single act of generosity would transform everything. His life, Sarah's life, and the entire community around them. The next morning, the cafe buzzed with an energy Jake had never seen before. Customers whispered, phones were out, and the line stretched past the door. Something was different. A young woman approached him, her eyes bright. "Are you the barista who helped that single mom yesterday?" she asked. Jake nodded, confused. "Your kindness is going viral," she explained, turning her phone screen toward him. Sarah's social media post was everywhere, a heartfelt description of how a free coffee had been more than just a drink, but a lifeline during a desperate moment. Jake's backstory wasn't just about making coffee. At 28, he'd navigated a challenging path. Raised by a single father after losing his mother, he understood struggle intimately. Working at the cafe wasn't just a job. It was his way of creating connections, of offering small moments of compassion in a world that often felt harsh. Sarah's life was a constant balancing act. A marketing coordinator and single mother to 7-year-old Ethan, she'd been navigating parenthood solo for 3 years. Every day was a calculated dance of childcare, work deadlines, and stretching every single dollar. That morning when Jake offered her the free coffee, it was more than just a beverage. It was a lifeline, a momentary breath of humanity in her relentless routine. Ethan had been sick the previous week, medical bills had piled up, and her latest project at work seemed impossible to complete. When she shared her story online that evening, she didn't expect much. "Sometimes a stranger's kindness is all you need to keep going," her post read, with a picture of the cafe's logo and her half-drunk latte. What happened next was nothing short of extraordinary. The post spread like wildfire. Within hours, thousands of shares, comments, and messages flooded Sarah's social media. People weren't just reading her story, they were connecting with it, seeing themselves in her struggle. Local news picked up the story, then regional outlets. Suddenly, the small cafe became a symbol of unexpected compassion. Customers began flooding in, not just for coffee, but to be part of something larger. A community that cared? Jake stood behind the counter, bewildered. Phones were recording, people were sharing their own stories of kindness, and the cafe that once held maybe a dozen customers now buzzed with the energy of a major event. "I just wanted to help someone," Jake muttered to himself, watching the growing crowd. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of a transformation that would change everything. The media frenzy happened faster than anyone could have predicted. Within days, national news networks were featuring the story of Jake, the barista who embodied compassion, and Sarah, the single mom whose vulnerable moment had sparked a movement. Good Morning America reached out first, then CNN. Podcasts, Local news stations and online platforms all wanted to interview Jake and Sarah. Their story had become more than just a viral moment. It was a testament to human connection. Celebrities began sharing the post. Philanthropists reached out to the cafe. Donations started pouring in for local single-parent support groups. What had begun as a simple act of kindness was now creating tangible change. Sarah discovered opportunities she'd never imagined. A tech startup offered her a flexible remote marketing position that would allow her to balance work and parenting. Her viral story had inadvertently opened doors she'd thought were permanently closed. For Jake, the attention was overwhelming but transformative. The cafe owner, inspired by the massive positive publicity, offered him a management position with significantly improved pay and benefits. Scholarships and educational grants reached out, supporting his long-held dream of continuing his education. But beyond the monetary and professional gains, something more profound had occurred. A community had been created. People were talking about kindness, about supporting each other, about seeing the humanity in strangers. "I never thought a single cup of coffee could change so much," Jake would later say in interviews. But sometimes the smallest gesture can create the biggest wave. Sarah would often bring Ethan to the cafe, now a local landmark of hope. Their story had become a beacon, proof that compassion isn't just a concept, but a powerful force of transformation. The final message was clear: one moment of unexpected kindness can ripple outward, touching lives in ways we could never predict. Months later, the cafe had become more than just a coffee shop. It was a community hub, a place where kindness was not just practiced, but celebrated. Jake had transformed the space, creating a support network for local single parents, setting up a small fund to help those struggling with unexpected expenses. Sarah's life had dramatically changed. Her new job allowed her to spend more time with Ethan, and the connections she'd made through the viral story had opened up a network of support she never thought possible. The scholarship fund started in her name helped other single parents pursue their education and career goals. During a community event at the cafe, Jake stood beside Sarah, both reflecting on how a single moment of compassion had altered their trajectories. Ethan played nearby, surrounded by other children whose parents had found hope through their unexpected journey. "What's the kindest act you've ever experienced?" Jake would ask visitors, a tradition that had become central to the cafe's identity. Each story shared was a reminder that humanity's greatest strength lies in its capacity for compassion. The message was simple yet profound. One act of kindness can create a tsunami of hope, connecting strangers, transforming lives, and proving that in a world that often seems divided, empathy remains our most powerful currency. So, we ask you, what small act of kindness could you perform today that might change someone's entire world? Share your story. Spread hope. Be the difference. Kindness matters. One act of kindness,